to the dunya, which comes from the word adna, meaning something low or lowly. And when we reflect as Muslims, we're told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reflect. As Allah says, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Do they not reflect within ourselves? To reflect upon the creation. أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Do they not reflect within themselves? And again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And thus do explain our signs in detail for those who reflect. So we're people of reflection. So when we reflect upon the dunya, what do we come to the conclusion? What conclusions come, brothers and sisters? Well, we will come to a conclusion. We will have a yaqeen that the dunya in the 21st century, brothers and sisters, is in a mess. The dunya, especially if we see it through the eyes of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with regards to his ummah, we are in a sense of destruction and mess. Only recently, we had 1.2 million innocent Muslims, Iraqis, slaughtered. Brothers and sisters, slaughtered. And these are not just numbers. Muslims don't play a numbers game. The ulama, when they used to see one coffin of the Muslim, they would be crying. These are 1.2 million Muslims slaughtered in the name of liberal democracy. If we go a little bit further back, just a little bit further back, we see 500,000 children, babies, dying as a result of the sanctions, the UN sanctions in Iraq. And these sanctions were not there to prevent Saddam Hussein from creating any weapons, brothers and sisters. These very sanctions were there to destroy the Muslims, to destroy the people of Iraq, Christians also. Because America, if you go to the UN files, they would boycott even medicines. How many bombs can you make from aspirin, brothers and sisters? This is not funny. This is the reality of the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They boycott even medicines. Let's go even a little bit back, brothers and sisters. We see that there's an undercover, covert nuclear war in the Arab world. Because the allied forces, the so-called allied forces, when they were throwing their bombs, they were depleting them. They were coating them in depleted uranium. And depleted uranium, the DU dust, created a massive cloud over the Gulf. And we have women today in Iraq that when they have newborn babies, they don't know how to breastfeed the baby because they can't see their eyes, their ears, their mouth, or their head. Many deformities. Go to the UN files. This is not a mad mullah speaking. Even the non-Muslims talk about this. Let's get real people and wake up to this reality with regards to the reality of the dunya. Even when we go to our fellow human beings, many Muslim and non-Muslim in Africa, the pharmaceutical companies selling the Africans outdated, cheap, expired medicines when they have plenty of money to give them medicine to cure preventable diseases in the third world. Is this liberal compassion? Is this the compassionate values of the West? This looks like the value structure of greed. Brothers and sisters, just recently was the 65th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when the Americans bombed Japanese cities and incinerated a nation. Innocent human beings, brothers and sisters. incinerated a whole nation because the Japanese soldiers were fighting American Marines in Pearl Harbor. There was no residential centers in Pearl Harbor. They were full of Marines. But what did America decide to do? Which is the reality of kufr, war, which has no value structure, no basis for morality and ethics. You kill our soldiers, we'll kill your babies. You kill our Marines, we'll wipe out your cities. And this is not just because they're American. Forget these labels. It's because of an idea, something which I'm going to discuss a bit later. Now let's go back a little bit more into the future, brothers and sisters. In the 90s, in Bosnia, what happened, brothers and sisters? The genocide and massacre of Muslims just because they were Muslim. And by the way, these Muslims didn't look like Muslims. It was such a massacre that the Serbian soldiers, brothers and sisters, would rape pregnant women. And then they would kill the pregnant women. And after that, they would be gambling. And it's not any old gambling, brothers and sisters. They will be gambling with the embryo to see if it was a boy or a girl. This is the reality of the dunya, brothers and sisters. This is the reality of the dunya. Now let's talk about home. I have a beautiful son, mashallah. His name is Zakaria Abdurrahman Tzortzis. Make dua for him and my family. And every time I see my son, I feel incompetent, wallahi. Because I know I myself don't have the ability to change his surroundings on my own. And I'm fearful. There's a famous African saying, it takes a village to bring up a child. So when I see him, I'm looking around our village in Britain. Every day, brothers and sisters, a young boy or a young girl commits suicide in their own bedroom. 4,000 children under the age of 14, brothers and sisters, every year. These are human beings according to Islam that have fitrah. They're in a state of fitrah. If they die, where do they go? To Jannah. But society has socialized them so much, brothers and sisters, that they commit suicide in their own bedroom. Every day, 167 women are raped. 90,000 rapes a year, brothers and sisters. And these are the ones that are recorded. According to Amnesty International UK, 74% of all men would call the RSPCA if there was a sick dog on the road. But only 50% of men, only 50% of men will call the police if they saw a battered woman on the street. What does that say about people's feelings towards women in this society? And they claim we oppress our women. We honor our women. And we elevate our women because we know in Islam women are the first teachers of the scholar and the first protector of the mujahid. This is the status of women in Islam. Every 15 seconds a woman is battered in the United States of America, brothers and sisters, and every 6 minutes she is raped. This is the reality, brothers, of the dunya. This is the reality, brothers, of our society. And when we think about these things, and when we think about them very deeply, especially what's happening to the Muslims, when we think about this, we get emotional, angry, almost full of hatred, if you like. And rightly so. Who has the right to tell us to react? We're human beings. We don't have any emotions. You're going to tell us not to react the way we should react as human beings? There's no bigger oppression, brothers and sisters, than the oppressor telling you how to react from his oppression. So we have emotions. We're human beings, for God's sake. But we shouldn't forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When He says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُنُوا قَوَّمِينَ لِلَّهِ شُهَدَاءَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ لَعَلَّ تَعْدِلُوا. Oh, you who believe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is raising your status, brothers and sisters, as people of amana. Oh, you who believe, be witnesses in justice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And do not let the hatred of others make you swerve from justice. Be just, for that is closer to your duty. But I ask you the question, brothers and sisters, where is the justice today? Where is the justice today? Just not long ago, in Chelsea, a sister was battered because a drunk man from a pub decided to hate Muslims. She was battered to the point the doctors could not remove the hijab from her broken skull. This is the reality. Where is the justice? But when we look into history, brothers and sisters, when the values of Islam were implemented in some form, the values were implemented in some form, we saw change. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ. Indeed, unquestionably, Allah does not change a state within a people unless they change what's within themselves. Anfusihim, what's within themselves, brothers. And when we go into our history, what do we see? We even see the Jewish community, and they claim that we're anti-Semitic. Yuri Avnery, a Jew that was a Zionist, now changed, said the following words, a famous journalist: every honest Jew should thank the Muslims for preserving the Jewish community. Because under Islam, when the values were there, that Islam preserved the Jewish community. Because we're people of Sunnah. As the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever harms a dhimmi, a non-Muslim under our protection, harms the Prophet himself. These were our values. And we had many other Jewish historians. Heinrich Graetz, a 19th century Jewish historian, he said the Jews live favorably under the Mohammedans, under the Muslims. You have a contemporary Jewish historian, Zion Zohar. He said thus, when the Muslims crossed the Straits of Gibraltar, the Jews saw the Muslims as liberators from Christian persecution. In the academic study, A.S. Tritton's study, he said the Christians preferred Muslim rule to that of Christians. You have Italian rabbis, Bertinoro, David De Rossi. They traveled to Baghdad and said amazing things about Islam. They said Jews are not persecuted in these lands. In Philip Mansur's book, Constantinople, he quotes a letter from a rabbi in 1453, and he says, come to the land of the Turks, come to the land of the Muslims. We are free, unhindered, taxes are small, rich are the fruits of the earth. We even have a famous sage and Jewish poet. He would write, the Muslims preach and sing of love and passion, and the Christians of war and revenge. A German poet used to write, I pray that a Turkish horse drinks from the river Rhine. So the Muslims could come to Germany and liberate the darkness of Europe at that time. But why did this happen, brothers and sisters? Why was the change there? Why did then the Jews thought of us as high, thought of us as people with honor and justice? But now, we're seen as the problem. It's because of the values were there, brothers and sisters. People called for those values. And this is precisely what we're talking about.